Marcus Rodriguez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched the sleek silver sedan pull away from his weathered auto shop, its engine purring like a contented cat. He had no idea that the woman behind the wheel would return in 2 weeks to offer him something that would transform his struggling business into a nationwide sensation. He couldn't have imagined that his simple act of kindness, refusing her $20 tip with a gentle smile, had just planted the seeds of his own remarkable destiny. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. The heat shimmered off the cracked asphalt of Highway 52, like waves on an invisible ocean, as Marcus Rodriguez emerged from beneath the hood of a 1998 Ford pickup truck. The ancient fan belt had finally given up its ghost after years of faithful service, and Marcus had spent the better part of the morning coaxing life back into the weathered vehicle. His hands stained permanently with motor oil and calloused from decades of wrestling with stubborn bolts, moved with the practiced precision of a surgeon as he made the final adjustments. Pine Creek, Nevada, wasn't the kind of place that attracted much attention from the outside world. Nestled between rolling hills dotted with sagebrush and the occasional Joshua tree, the town of 847 residents existed in a state of quiet persistence. Most folks drove through without stopping, their eyes fixed on the distant lights of Las Vegas or Reno. But for those who did pause, Marcus Rodriguez's auto shop stood as a beacon of honest craftsmanship in a world increasingly dominated by corporate chains and faceless service centers. The shop itself was a testament to both time and determination. Built in 1967 by Marcus's father Diego, the cinder block building bore the scars of countless summers and winters. The paint had faded from its original blue to a weathered gray-green, and the metal roof sang different notes when the desert wind picked up. But inside, every tool had its place, every part was cataloged with military precision, and every repair was executed with the kind of care that had become increasingly rare in the modern world. Marcus had inherited more than just a business from his father. He had inherited a philosophy. Diego Rodriguez had taught his son that every vehicle that rolled into their bay carried more than just mechanical problems. It carried the dreams and struggles of the people who depended on it. The single mother who needed her car to get to work, the elderly man whose truck was his lifeline to the grocery store, the teenager saving every penny for college who couldn't afford to replace a broken-down sedan. These were the people who mattered, and treating them with dignity and fairness wasn't just good business, it was the right thing to do. At 38, Marcus had been running the shop solo for 7 years, ever since his father's heart attack had claimed him during a particularly brutal summer. The transition hadn't been easy. Diego had possessed an almost mystical ability to diagnose problems by sound alone, and his reputation for honest dealing had drawn customers from 3 counties. Marcus had the mechanical skills he had learned at his father's elbow since he was old enough to hold a wrench, but building the same level of trust took time, patience, and an unwavering commitment to doing right by people even when it cost him money. The financial realities of running a small business in a town the size of Pine Creek were unforgiving. Competition from the big chain stores in the larger towns, an hour's drive away, meant that Marcus had to work twice as hard for half the profit. Parts suppliers favored the high-volume customers, leading small independents like Marcus to pay premium prices for the same components. Insurance, utilities, and the ever-increasing cost of diagnostic equipment ate into his margins like rust-consuming metal. There were months when Marcus wondered if he was fighting a losing battle, if the era of the independent mechanic was drawing to a close like so many other small-town institutions. But every morning, he unlocked the doors of Rodriguez Auto Repair with the same sense of purpose that had driven his father. The smell of motor oil and metal shavings, the familiar weight of tools in his hands, the satisfaction of solving a mechanical puzzle that had stumped someone else. These things kept him going when the bank statements painted a grim picture of his financial future. The afternoon sun was approaching its zenith when Marcus heard the distinctive sound of a tire going flat. The rhythmic thump-thump-thump of rubber meeting asphalt grew louder as a silver sedan limped into his parking lot, its rear passenger tire completely deflated. Marcus set down his coffee cup and walked outside, wiping his hands on a shop rag that had seen better days. The woman who emerged from the driver's seat looked decidedly out of place in Pine Creek. Her tailored business suit, despite showing signs of travel fatigue, probably cost more than Marcus made in a good week. Her dark hair was pulled back in a professional style that somehow remained neat despite what must have been hours on the road. But it was her eyes that caught Marcus's attention, intelligent and alert, taking in details with the kind of systematic observation that suggested a mind accustomed to making quick, accurate assessments. "Looks like you've got some trouble there," Marcus said, his voice carrying the easy warmth that had always been his trademark when dealing with stranded motorists. He had learned long ago that a mechanical problem was stressful enough, without adding the anxiety of dealing with an unfriendly service provider. "I'm afraid so," the woman replied, extending her hand with a smile that seemed genuine despite the obvious inconvenience of her situation. "I'm Victoria Chen. I was hoping to make it to Carson City before this happened, but I suppose I should be grateful it occurred near a repair shop rather than in the middle of nowhere." Marcus shook her hand, noting the firm grip and the way she made direct eye contact. "Marcus Rodriguez, let's take a look at what we're dealing with here." He knelt beside the deflated tire, running his fingers along the sidewall, and tread with the methodical thoroughness of a detective examining evidence. The tire was high quality, the kind that came standard on luxury rental cars, but even the best rubber was vulnerable to the sharp stones and metal debris that accumulated on desert highways. "Looks like he picked up a pretty nasty nail about 3 miles back," Marcus said, pointing to the small metal object protruding from the tire. "Probably happened when you passed that construction zone. The good news is, it's in the tread, not the sidewall, so we can patch it properly." Victoria nodded, pulling out her phone to check for cellular coverage. The single bar of signal that flickered in and out wasn't encouraging. "How long do you think it will take? I have a meeting in Carson City that I really can't miss." Marcus glanced at his watch and made a quick mental calculation. A proper tire repair would take about 45 minutes. But he could see the tension in Victoria's shoulders, the way she kept glancing at her phone and then toward the highway. He had dealt with enough stranded travelers to recognize the signs of someone whose carefully planned schedule was rapidly falling apart. "I could do a quick plug job that would get you back on the road in 15 minutes, Marcus said. "But I'd recommend a proper patch and plug combination. It'll take a bit longer, but it's safer and more reliable. How far are you planning to drive on this tire?" Victoria considered the question, weighing the immediate convenience against the long-term wisdom of doing the job right. It was exactly the kind of decision that defined character, Marcus had learned, and her answer would tell him a lot about what kind of person he was dealing with. "Do it right," she said without hesitation. "I'd rather be late than broken down again, 50 miles from here." Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile he had managed all day. "I like your thinking. Let me get this up on the lift, and we'll take care of you properly." As Marcus worked to position the hydraulic jack and remove the wheel, Victoria found herself studying the shop with the same analytical eye she brought to boardroom presentations and factory inspections. The building might have seen better days, but every tool was clean and properly maintained. The floor, while stained with decades of automotive fluids, was swept clean and free of debris. The work area was organized with an efficiency that spoke of someone who took pride in their craft. "You've got a nice setup here," Victoria said, genuine appreciation evident in her voice. "How long have you been in business?" "My father opened this place in 1967, Marcus replied as he broke the tire bead with practiced efficiency. "I took over 7 years ago when he passed. It's not the fanciest shop you'll ever see, but we do good work." Victoria watched as Marcus separated the tire from the rim, his movements economical and sure. There was something almost meditative about the way he worked, a focus and attention to detail that she recognized from the best craftsmen she had encountered in her career. In the corporate world, such dedication was often rewarded with advancement and recognition. In a place like Pine Creek, it simply meant the difference between staying in business and closing your doors. "Do you get many tourists coming through?" Victoria asked, partly out of curiosity and partly to fill the comfortable silence that had settled over the shop. Marcus chuckled as he located the puncture and began roughing up the surrounding rubber with a specialized tool. "Some. Most folks are just passing through on their way to somewhere else. We get the occasional breakdown, flat tire, overheated radiator, that sort of thing. The locals keep us busy enough most of the time." What about other repair shops in the area? Any competition? The question was innocent enough, but Victoria couldn't help falling back into her professional habits. Understanding market dynamics, competitive landscapes, and operational challenges was second nature to her, even when she was simply making conversation with a small-town mechanic. There's a place in Fallon, about an hour east, and another in Minden, maybe 45 minutes west, Marcus said as he applied the patch with careful precision. But they're both chain operations. Different approach than what we do here. How so? Marcus paused in his work, considering his answer. He had given this question considerable thought over the years, especially during the lean periods when he wondered if his old-fashioned approach was still viable in the modern marketplace. Well, they focus on volume. Get the cars in and out as fast as possible. Maximize the number of jobs per day. Nothing wrong with that approach if it works for you. But we've always believed that taking the time to do things right the first time saves everyone headaches down the road. A customer might pay a bit more, but they know the job was done properly, and they know they can trust us to treat them fairly. Victoria nodded, filing away the information with the same systematic approach she used to evaluate potential business partners. The man working on her tire embodied qualities that had become increasingly rare in her experience: integrity, craftsmanship, and a genuine commitment to customer service that went beyond lip service. "Sounds like your father taught you well," she said. "He taught me that reputation is the only thing you really own in this business," Marcus replied, inserting the plug with steady hands. "You can replace tools, you can repair buildings, but once you lose people's trust, you might as well close up shop." As Marcus continued his work, Victoria found herself thinking about the dozens of auto service centers she had visited in her professional capacity. Corporate facilities with gleaming floors and computerized diagnostic equipment, staffed by technicians who followed standardized procedures designed by committees in distant headquarters. They were efficient, predictable, and completely interchangeable. This shop, with its worn floors and handmade signs, possessed something that couldn't be replicated by corporate mandate: authenticity. "So what brings you to our little corner of Nevada?" Marcus asked as he began reinstalling the tire. "If you don't mind me asking." Victoria hesitated for a moment, weighing how much to reveal about her true purpose. Her business cards identified her as a senior vice president of strategic partnerships for Meridian Automotive, but that title meant nothing to most people and everything to those who understood the Bell automotive industry. She was in Nevada as part of a comprehensive market research initiative, identifying potential partners for a new program that could revolutionize how major manufacturers interacted with independent kashirai service providers. "I'm in the automotive industry," she said, choosing her words carefully. "I'm exploring opportunities in smaller markets, places that might be underserved by the major chains." Marcus nodded as he lowered the car back to the ground. "Well, you've certainly found one of those. Sometimes I think we're invisible to the big companies. They see the population numbers and write us off, figure we're not worth their time. But you're still here," Victoria observed. "Still here," Marcus agreed, checking the tire pressure with a gauge that looked older than he was. "Though some days I wonder for how long. The economics of running a small shop keep getting tougher." Victoria felt a familiar stirring, the same instinct that had guided her through a successful career identifying opportunities that others missed. Here was exactly the kind of operation she had been hoping to find: a small business with strong local ties, a reputation for quality work, and an owner who understood that success meant more than just profit margins. "What are your biggest challenges?" she asked, her professional curiosity fully engaged now. Marcus straightened up, considering the question. He had learned to be cautious about sharing too much information with strangers. But something about Victoria's manner invited candor. She listened with the kind of attention that suggested genuine interest rather than polite conversation. "Parts availability is probably the biggest issue," he said. "The major suppliers focus on high-volume customers. I can order the same part as a chain store, but I'll pay 20% more and wait twice as long to get it. That makes it hard to compete on price, and it means customers sometimes have to wait longer than they should for repairs." Victoria nodded, making mental notes. Parts distribution was one of the key elements of the program she was developing, a way to level the playing field between independent shops and corporate chains. What about training and technical support? She asked. That's another challenge, Marcus admitted. Cars keep getting more complicated, more computerized. The diagnostic equipment costs a fortune, and by the time you figure out how to use it, they've come out with something new. The manufacturers offer training programs, but they're usually designed for their dealer networks, not independent shops. Victoria could see the frustration in Marcus's eyes, the same expression she had observed in dozens of small business owners across the country. They were skilled craftsmen, trapped in an increasingly complex system that seemed designed to favor large operations with deep pockets and corporate connections. Sounds like you could use a partner, Victoria said carefully, someone who could help with those kinds of challenges. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've been approached by a few outfits over the years. Usually they want to buy me out, slap their brand on the building, and turn me into another franchise location. That's not what my father had in mind when he built this place. What if there was another way? Victoria asked. What if you could get access to better parts pricing and technical support without giving up your independence? Marcus looked at her sharply, his expression shifting from polite conversation to focused attention. Are you talking about something specific, or is this hypothetical? Victoria realized she was approaching a decision point. She could maintain her cover as a traveler making casual conversation, or she could begin to reveal her true purpose. The professional in her counseled caution, but her instinct suggested that Marcus Rodriguez was exactly the kind of partner she had been seeking. Let's just say, I'm always interested in creative solutions to common problems, she said diplomatically. Marcus finished tightening the last lug nut and stood up, wiping his hands on his shop rag. Well, that should get you to Carson City and back again. I'd recommend keeping an eye on the tire pressure for the first few days, just to make sure the patch is holding properly. Victoria pulled out her wallet, grateful for Marcus's skilled work, but also disappointed that their conversation was coming to an end. What do I owe you? $25? Marcus said. That covers the patch, plug, and labor. Victoria looked at him in surprise. She had expected to pay at least twice that amount, possibly more, given her obvious status as an out-of-town traveler in a potentially vulnerable situation. Are you sure? That seems low for the amount of work you did. Marcus shrugged, the gesture carrying decades of his father's influence. It's a fair price for a fair job. I don't believe in taking advantage of people just because they're having a bad day. Victoria handed him $30. Keep the change. I appreciate you taking the time to do it right. Marcus looked at the extra $5 for a moment, then handed it back with a smile. I appreciate the thought, but the price is the price. Save your money for something you really need. Victoria stared at the returned bill, genuinely taken aback. In her world of corporate expense accounts and inflated service charges, Marcus's refusal to accept what amounted to a modest tip was almost incomprehensible. It wasn't about the money. It was about the principle behind the gesture. The idea that honest work deserved honest payment. Nothing more and nothing less. Are you sure? She asked. You've gone above and beyond here. I've done my job, Marcus replied simply. That's enough. Victoria pocketed the $5, but she made a mental note of the interaction. She had encountered countless service providers in her career, from mechanics to consultants to corporate executives, and she had learned to judge character by how people handled money. Marcus Rodriguez had just passed a test he didn't even know he was taking. Well, thank you again, Victoria said, extending her hand once more. I'll remember this kindness. Drive safe, Marcus replied, shaking her hand. And if you're ever passing through Pine Creek again, stop by and let us know how that tire is holding up. Victoria climbed back into her rental car, started the engine, and pulled slowly out of the parking lot. In her rearview mirror, she could see Marcus already turning his attention to the next project, a red pickup truck that looked like it had seen better decades. She drove toward Carson City with her mind racing, not about the business meeting that awaited her, but about the conversation she had just concluded and the possibilities it had revealed. The meeting in Carson City went exactly as Victoria had expected. A conference room full of regional managers and corporate representatives, discussing market penetration strategies and competitive positioning with the kind of abstract language that reduced human experiences to data points on spreadsheets. The meeting was necessary, part of the comprehensive research that would inform Meridian Automotive's expansion strategy. But Victoria found her thoughts drifting back to the weathered auto shop and the man who had bees. Refused her tip. Over the next 2 weeks, Victoria traveled throughout Nevada, Utah, and Eastern California, visiting auto repair shops, parts suppliers, and service centers. She compiled detailed reports on market conditions, competitive landscapes, and operational challenges. She interviewed mechanics, shop owners, and customers, building a comprehensive picture of how the automotive service industry functioned in smaller markets. But throughout her travels, one encounter continued to resonate in her memory. Marcus Rodriguez represented something that Meridian Automotive desperately needed: authenticity. The company's research had identified a growing consumer demand for trustworthy, personal service, the kind of relationship that corporate chains struggle to provide despite their best efforts. Focus groups consistently praised independent shops for their personal attention and honest dealing. But those same shops faced increasing pressure from larger competitors with superior resources and buying power. Victoria's assignment was to develop a partnership program that would combine the best of both worlds, providing independent shops with the resources they needed to compete while preserving the personal touch that made them valuable to their communities. The program would offer preferred parts pricing, technical training, marketing support, and access to Meridian's diagnostic systems, all while allowing partner shops to maintain their independence and local gradation identity. The challenge was finding the right partners, shops that embodied the values Meridian wanted to associate with, while possessing the business acumen to succeed in an increasingly competitive market. Victoria had visited dozens of potential candidates, and while many were technically proficient, few had demonstrated the combination of integrity, skill, and community connection that would make them ideal flagship partners. Marcus Rodriguez was different. His shop might not have been the largest or most modern she had encountered, but it possessed something more valuable than gleaming equipment or corporate branding. It had soul, the kind of authentic character that couldn't be manufactured or replicated through marketing campaigns. Victoria made her decision on a Thursday afternoon while sitting in yet another sterile conference room, listening to a presentation about customer acquisition costs and lifetime value metrics. She excused herself from the meeting, walked outside to her rental car, and called her assistant in Detroit. "Sarah, I need you to clear my schedule for tomorrow afternoon," Victoria said. "I'm making a detour on my way back." "Another site visit?" Sarah asked, accustomed to Victoria's sometimes unpredictable travel schedule. "Something like that," Victoria replied, already mentally preparing for what she hoped would be a very different kind of conversation. Marcus was replacing the water pump on a 2003 Honda Civic when he heard the familiar sound of tires on gravel. He glanced up from his work to see a silver sedan, identical to the one he had repaired 2 weeks earlier, pulling into his parking lot. For a moment, he wondered if Victoria Chen was having trouble with his patch job, but as the driver emerged from the car, he realized this was a different vehicle entirely. Victoria walked toward the shop with the confident stride of someone who had made an important decision. She was dressed more casually than during their first encounter, dark slacks and a simple blouse that suggested business, but not the formal corporate atmosphere of her previous visit. Marcus noticed that she carried a leather portfolio and seemed to have a specific purpose in mind. "Ms. Chen," Marcus said, setting down his wrench and wiping his hands. "Don't tell me you're having trouble with that tire already." Victoria smiled, remembering his easy manner and genuine concern. "The tire is perfect. Actually, I was hoping we could continue our conversation from last time." Marcus looked puzzled, but intrigued. "Sure. Though I have to admit I'm curious about what brings you back to Pine Creek. Most folks are pretty eager to get out of here once they've taken care of their business." "I wasn't entirely honest with you during our first meeting," Victoria said, choosing her words carefully. "I told you I was in the automotive industry, which is true, but I didn't explain why I was really here." Marcus felt a familiar wariness creeping into his consciousness. Over the years, he had learned to be cautious when conversations took unexpected turns, especially when they involved people he didn't know well, making mysterious statements about their true purposes. "Okay," he said, his tone neutral but alert. "I'm listening." Victoria opened her portfolio and pulled out a business card, handing it to Marcus with a gesture that seemed both professional and personal. "My name is Victoria Chen, and I'm a Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for Meridian Automotive." Marcus looked at the card, reading the corporate logo and Victoria's title with growing confusion. Meridian Automotive was a major player in the industry, one of the largest manufacturers of aftermarket parts and automotive accessories in North America. Their products were available in every major chain store and many independent shops, though Marcus had never dealt with them directly due to their minimum order requirements and focus on high-volume customers. "I'm not sure I understand," Marcus said. "Are you telling me that a VP from Meridian Automotive just happened to get a flat tire in Pine Creek?" Victoria laughed, appreciating his direct approach. "It wasn't quite that simple. I've been traveling through this region for the past month, researching independent auto repair shops for a new partnership program we're developing. The flat tire was genuinely accidental, but it gave me an opportunity to see how you operate under real-world conditions." Marcus studied Victoria's face, looking for signs of deception or manipulation. He had encountered enough corporate representatives over the years to recognize the usual sales pitches and partnership proposals, most of which involved signing away his independence in exchange for promised benefits that rarely materialized as advertised. "So this is some kind of business proposition?" he asked. "It could be," Victoria replied. "But first, I'd like to explain what we're trying to accomplish and see if it's something that might interest you." Marcus gestured toward two folding chairs near his workbench, the closest thing his shop had to a customer waiting area. "I'm listening, but I should probably tell you up front that I've heard a lot of partnership proposals over the years, and most of them weren't as good as they sounded." Victoria settled into one of the chairs, noting how Marcus positioned himself to maintain eye contact, while staying close enough to his work that he could return to it if the conversation proved unproductive. She recognized the body language of someone who had learned to be polite but protective of his time and energy. "Meridian has been watching trends in the automotive service industry for several years," Victoria began. "We've seen increasing consolidation, with large chains acquiring independent shops or driving them out of business through competitive pressure. At the same time, consumer research shows a growing preference for personalized service and local relationships." Marcus nodded, recognizing the trend she described from his own experience. "That matches what I've seen. The big chains keep expanding, but a lot of customers still prefer dealing with someone they know and trust." "Exactly. The challenge is that independent shops like yours face significant disadvantages when it comes to parts pricing, technical support, and access to new diagnostic equipment. You have to compete with chains that benefit from economies of scale and corporate backing." End quote. "Tell me something I don't know," Marcus said dryly. "The question is, what does Meridian plan to do about it?" Victoria appreciated his directness. She had grown tired of the elaborate presentations and corporate speak that characterized most business discussions. Marcus's straightforward approach was refreshing and indicated that he would value honesty over salesmanship. "We want to create a network of independent partner shops that can access Meridian's resources while maintaining their local identity and independence," Victoria said. "Partners would receive preferred pricing on parts and supplies, access to our technical training programs, and support for marketing and customer service initiatives." Marcus had heard similar pitches before, usually from companies that promised the moon and delivered considerably less. "What's the catch?" "There's always a catch. The catch is that we're selective about our partners," Victoria replied. "We're not looking to sign up every shop that wants to join. We want partners who share our commitment to quality workmanship and customer service, shops that can serve as positive examples of what independent automotive service can accomplish." "And you think my shop fits that description?" Victoria leaned forward, her expression becoming more personal and less corporate. "Marcus, I've visited more than 40 shops in the past month. I've seen operations that were technically proficient but soulless. And I've seen shops with great character but questionable business practices. Your shop is the first one I've encountered that combines excellent workmanship with genuine integrity. Marcus felt a flush of pride at the compliment, but his natural caution remained strong. That's nice to hear, but I'm still not clear on what you're really offering. Partnership agreements usually involve some kind of commitment or obligation. They do, Victoria agreed. Partners would commit to using Meridian parts and supplies for a specified percentage of their work, typically around 60%. They would also agree to participate in our training programs and maintain certain standards for customer service and shop appearance. End quote. And in return? Parts pricing that's competitive with what the major chains pay, access to our technical support hotline and diagnostic database, participation in our national advertising campaigns, and most importantly, the backing of a company that's committed to the success of independent automotive service. End quote. Marcus was quiet for several minutes, processing the information and trying to identify potential problems or hidden costs. Victoria waited patiently, understanding that he needed time to consider the implications of what she was proposing. "Why me?" Marcus finally asked. "I mean, I appreciate the compliment, but there have to be bigger shops, more successful operations that would be better partners for a company like Meridian." Victoria had anticipated this question, and she had given it considerable thought during her drive back to Pine Creek. Bigger isn't always better, Marcus. We're not looking for partners who can generate the highest volume or the biggest profits. We're looking for partners who can demonstrate that independent shops can compete with chains while maintaining the personal touch that customers value. End quote. You want me to be some kind of poster child for your program? I want you to be yourself, Victoria replied. The way you handled my flat tire, refusing the tip, taking the time to do the job right, that's exactly the kind of service we want to promote. If we can help you succeed while maintaining those values, it proves that our partnership model works. Marcus stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the dusty main street of Pine Creek. The town had been slowly declining for years, losing population and businesses to larger communities with more opportunities. His shop was one of the few remaining locally owned businesses, a fact that filled him with both pride and concern about the future. "What happens if this doesn't work out?" he asked. "If I sign up for this partnership and it doesn't deliver what you're promising?" Victoria joined him at the window, following his gaze toward the quiet street. "That's a fair question, and I can't guarantee success. What I can promise is that Meridian is committed to making this program work. We're investing significant resources in it, and our reputation depends on our separate partners succeeding. But if I'm not happy with the arrangement, I can get out of it? With reasonable notice, yes. We're not looking to trap anyone in a bad situation. We want partners who choose to work with us because it benefits both parties." Marcus turned away from the window and looked directly at Victoria. "I need to think about this. It's a big decision, and I don't make big decisions quickly." "Of course," Victoria said, reaching into her portfolio for another document. "This is a detailed overview of the partnership program, including all the terms and conditions. Take your time to review it, and feel free to call me with any questions." Marcus accepted the packet, noting its substantial thickness. "How long do I have to decide?" "We're hoping to launch the program in 6 months, so ideally we'd like to have our initial partners signed up within the next 60 days. But if you need more time, we can work with your schedule." Victoria gathered her things and prepared to leave, but Marcus stopped her with a question that had been nagging at him throughout their conversation. "Why didn't you tell me who you were during our first meeting? Were you testing me somehow?" Victoria paused, considering how to answer honestly without sounding manipulative. "I wasn't testing you, exactly, but I learned more about your character in that one interaction than I could have from a dozen formal interviews. The way you treated a stranded customer, the pride you take in your work, your refusal to take advantage of someone in a vulnerable situation, those are the qualities we're looking for in partners." Marcus nodded, understanding the reasoning even if he wasn't entirely comfortable with the deception. "I appreciate your honesty now. I'll read through this material and give you an answer soon." Victoria shook his hand, noting the same firm grip and direct eye contact that had impressed her during their first meeting. "Take your time, Marcus. This is an important decision for both of us." As Victoria drove away from Pine Creek for the second time, she felt a mixture of hope and uncertainty. Marcus Rodriguez was exactly the kind of partner Meridian needed, but she couldn't predict whether he would be willing to take the risk. Independent business owners were, by definition, cautious about partnerships with large corporations, and Marcus had every reason to be skeptical of promises that seemed too good to be true. Marcus spent the next week studying the partnership proposal with the same meticulous attention he brought to diagnosing complex automotive problems. He read every page of the contract, researched Meridian Automotive's financial stability and corporate reputation, and even called a few shops in other states that had similar arrangements with different past-in companies. The more he learned, the more impressed he became with Victoria's presentation and Meridian's apparent commitment to the program. The financial terms were genuinely favorable, offering parts pricing that would improve his profit margins significantly. The training programs were comprehensive and practical, addressing exactly the kinds of technical challenges he faced regularly. The marketing support was substantial without being overwhelming, designed to enhance his local reputation rather than replace it with corporate branding. But the aspect of the proposal that intrigued Marcus most was its emphasis on independence. Unlike other partnership programs he had encountered, Meridian's approach seemed designed to strengthen independent shops rather than absorb them. Partners would maintain their own identity, set their own prices, and make their own decisions about how to serve their customers. Marcus called Victoria on a Friday afternoon, catching her in her office in Detroit as she prepared for another week of travel and meetings. "I've reviewed your proposal," Marcus said without preamble. "I have some questions." Victoria grabbed a notepad, anticipating a detailed discussion about terms and conditions. "I'm ready. First question. Are you serious about the 60% requirement for Meridian parts? Because some jobs require specific brands or specialty components that you might not carry." "We understand that situation," Victoria replied. "The 60% applies to standard maintenance and repair items, parts that we do carry in our catalog. We're not asking partners to compromise quality or customer service to meet an arbitrary quota." Second question. What happens if Meridian gets bought out by another company or changes its strategy? Am I stuck with whatever the new owners decide? Victoria had anticipated this concern, having heard it from several other potential partners. The partnership agreement includes specific provisions protecting partners from changes in corporate ownership or policy. If Meridian is acquired, or if we significantly modify the program terms, partners have the right to terminate their agreements without penalty. Marcus continued with several more questions, each one demonstrating his careful consideration of the proposal and his understanding of the potential risks and benefits. Victoria found herself increasingly impressed with his business acumen and attention to detail. Many small business owners made decisions based on emotion or immediate needs, but Marcus was approaching the partnership with the same methodical analysis he would apply to a complex repair job. "Last question," Marcus said, after nearly an hour of discussion. "Why should I trust you? I mean, you seem like a decent person, but you work for a big corporation with shareholders and quarterly profits to worry about. What happens when some executive decides that supporting independent shops isn't profitable enough?" Victoria had been dreading this question because it touched on her own concerns about corporate priorities and long-term commitments. She had seen other programs canceled or modified when they failed to meet financial expectations, leaving partners stranded with unfulfilled promises and damaged relationships. "I can't make guarantees about what some future executive might decide," Victoria said carefully. "But I can tell you that this program has support at the highest levels of the company, and it's part of our long-term strategic plan. Meridian has invested too much in developing this program to abandon it lightly." "That's not really an answer," Marcus observed. Victoria took a deep breath, deciding to share her personal perspective rather than hiding behind corporate talking points. "You're right, Marcus. The honest answer is that corporate priorities can change, and no partnership is guaranteed to last forever. But I believe in this program, and I believe that supporting independent shops like yours is not just good business, it's the right thing to do. I'm willing to stake my professional reputation on that belief." Marcus was quiet for several moments, processing Victoria's candid response. He had expected corporate assurances and carefully worded guarantees, not personal conviction and professional vulnerability. Her honesty was either remarkably refreshing or remarkably naive. and his instincts suggested it was the former. "All right," Marcus said finally. "I'm interested. When do we start?" Victoria felt a surge of elation that she struggled to keep out of her voice. "Really? You're ready to move forward?" "I'm ready to try," Marcus corrected. "This could be exactly what my shop needs, or it could be a disaster. But staying where I am isn't really an option anymore. The economics don't work long term." "Marcus, I think you're making the right decision, and I promise you won't regret giving us this chance." The partnership agreement was finalized within 2 weeks, a process that involved legal reviews, financial documentation, and coordination with Meridian's operations team. Victoria found herself working closely with Marcus throughout the process, answering questions, explaining procedures, and ensuring that the transition would be as smooth as possible. The first tangible change came in the form of a new parts ordering system that gave Marcus access to Meridian's wholesale pricing and inventory database. The savings were immediate and substantial, reducing his costs on common repair items by 20 to 30%. More importantly, the system provided real-time inventory information and guaranteed delivery schedules, eliminating the uncertainty that had plagued his parts procurement for years. The second change was less visible, but equally significant. Meridian's technical support team included Marcus in their regular training updates and diagnostic bulletins, keeping him informed about new repair procedures, warranty issues, and emerging automotive technologies. For the first time in years, Marcus felt like he was staying ahead of the technological curve, rather than constantly playing catch-up. The third change was the most dramatic. Victoria arranged for a small, tasteful sign to be installed at Marcus's shop, identifying it as a Meridian automotive partner, while preserving the Rodriguez Auto Repair branding that had served the business for decades. The sign was accompanied by a modest marketing campaign that highlighted the shop's commitment to quality service and fair pricing, backed by Meridian's reputation and resources. Within 3 months, Marcus noticed a steady increase in customer traffic. Word was spreading throughout the region about the small shop in Pine Creek that offered big company resources with small-town service. Customers drove from neighboring towns, drawn by online reviews that praised Marcus's honest dealing and expert workmanship. Victoria made regular visits to Pine Creek, ostensibly to monitor the partnership's progress, but increasingly because she enjoyed the conversations with Marcus and the opportunity to see the program's impact firsthand. Each visit revealed new evidence of the partnership's success, from the expanded inventory in Marcus's parts room to the additional diagnostic equipment he had been able to purchase with his improved profit margins. "I have to admit, I was skeptical about this whole thing," Marcus told Victoria during one of her visits. "But it's working better than I hoped. I'm actually making money again, and I can offer my customers service that I couldn't provide before." Victoria smiled, feeling a personal satisfaction that went beyond professional achievement. "You're proving that our model works, Marcus. Corporate headquarters is paying attention to what's happening here." "What kind of attention?" Marcus asked, his old wariness returning briefly. "The good kind," Victoria assured him. "They want to use your shop as a case study for expanding the program. You're becoming famous in the automotive service industry." Marcus laughed, shaking his head at the unlikely turn his life had taken. "Famous in Pine Creek is one thing. Famous in the automotive industry is something else entirely. Are you comfortable with that level of attention?" Marcus considered the question carefully. Fame had never been his goal. He simply wanted to run a successful business that served his community and honored his father's legacy. But if his success could help other independent shops survive and thrive, perhaps the attention was worthwhile. "As long as it helps other shops like mine, I can handle it," Marcus said. "Just don't expect me to start wearing suits and giving speeches at corporate conferences." Victoria grinned. "I wouldn't dream of changing you, Marcus. You're perfect exactly as you are." The partnership's success began attracting attention from unexpected quarters. Automotive trade publications ran articles about the Meridian program, using Marcus's shop as the primary example of how independent operations could compete with national chains. Industry analysts praised the program as an innovative approach to market consolidation that preserved the personal service that consumers valued while providing the resources that small businesses needed. Marcus found himself fielding calls from reporters, other shop owners, and even representatives from competing corporations who wanted to understand how the partnership worked. He answered their questions with the same honest directness that characterized all his interactions, emphasizing that success required commitment from both partners and a genuine desire to serve customers well. The recognition brought unexpected opportunities. Marcus was invited to speak at regional automotive conferences, sharing his experience with the Meridian Partnership and offering advice to other shop owners considering similar arrangements. He was featured in a national automotive magazine as Independent Entrepreneur of the Year, an honor that brought pride to the entire Pine Creek community. But the most significant recognition came from an unexpected source. Victoria called Marcus on a Tuesday morning, her voice barely containing her excitement. "Marcus, I have some news that I think you're going to like." "I'm listening," Marcus said, though he could already sense that something important was about to change. Meridian's board of directors has approved a major expansion of the partnership program, and they want to use your shop as the flagship location. They're proposing to invest in a facility upgrade, additional equipment, and expanded training programs, all while maintaining your independence and local identity. Marcus felt a familiar mixture of excitement and caution. "What kind of investment are we talking about?" "Enough to make your shop a showcase for what independent automotive service can accomplish with the right support. New diagnostic equipment, expanded parts inventory, facility improvements, whatever you need to serve your customers at the highest level." End quote. "And what do they want in return?" Victoria had anticipated this question, knowing that Marcus would be suspicious of any offer that seemed too generous. "They want you to continue doing exactly what you're doing now. Provide excellent service, treat customers fairly, and demonstrate that independent shops can compete with anyone when they have access to the right resources." Marcus was quiet for several minutes, overwhelmed by the implications of Victoria's proposal. The investment she was describing would transform his shop from a surviving small business into a thriving example of what independent automotive service could accomplish. But it would also bring increased scrutiny, higher expectations, and the pressure of representing an entire industry. "I need to think about this," Marcus said finally. "Of course, take all the time you need. But Marcus, I want you to know that this opportunity exists because of what you've accomplished here. You've proven that our partnership model works, and now we want to help you take it to the next level." Marcus spent the next week considering a proposal, discussing it with longtime customers who had become friends, and weighing the potential benefits against the risks of increased corporate involvement. The decision wasn't just about his business anymore. It was about his role in demonstrating that small-town values and big company resources could coexist successfully. The answer came to him while he was working on a 1987 Chevrolet pickup truck that belonged to Mrs. Patterson, an elderly widow who had been bringing her vehicles to the shop since his father's time. The truck was old, parts were expensive, and the repair wouldn't generate much profit. But Mrs. Patterson depended on the truck for her weekly trips to town, and Marcus knew that his careful work would keep her safely on the road for years to come. As he installed a rebuilt alternator with the same meticulous attention he brought to every job, Marcus realized that the Meridian Partnership hadn't changed the fundamental nature of his work. He was still solving problems, helping people, and maintaining the machines that kept his community connected to the wider world. The partnership had simply given him better tools and more resources to accomplish those goals. Marcus called Victoria that evening, reaching her at home in Detroit where she was preparing for another business trip. "I've made my decision about the expansion," Marcus said. "I'm in." Victoria felt a surge of relief and satisfaction. "I'm so glad, Marcus. This is going to be amazing. But I have conditions," Marcus continued. "I want to maintain my local identity and my personal relationships with customers. I don't want this shop to become some kind of corporate showcase that loses touch with the community it serves." "Absolutely. Why?" Victoria agreed. "That's exactly what makes this partnership work. We're not trying to turn you into something you're not. We're trying to help you become the best version of what you already are." The expansion began 3 months later with a careful renovation that preserved the shop's character while updating its capabilities. New diagnostic equipment arrived alongside the familiar tools that Marcus had inherited from his father. The parts inventory expanded to include a wider range of components, while maintaining the emphasis on quality that had always defined the shop's approach to repairs. The most visible change was the addition of a customer lounge area, with comfortable seating, complimentary coffee, and internet access. Marcus had initially resisted the idea, arguing that most customers preferred to wait in their cars or run errands while their vehicles were being serviced. But Victoria convinced him that providing a comfortable space would demonstrate respect for his customers' time and comfort. The renovation was completed just as Pine Creek experienced an unexpected surge in tourism, driven partly by the attention that Marcus's shop had received in automotive publications. Car enthusiasts began making pilgrimages to see the famous small-town shop that had become a symbol of independent automotive service. Marcus found himself serving customers from across the country, each one curious about the partnership that had attracted so much industry attention. The increased business brought new challenges and opportunities. Marcus hired his first full-time employee, a young mechanic named Jake, who had recently graduated from a technical college and was eager to learn from someone with Marcus's reputation. The addition of Jake allowed Marcus to take on more complex repairs while maintaining his commitment to quality and customer service. Victoria's visits to Pine Creek became more frequent as the partnership's success attracted attention from Meridian's senior leadership. She found herself serving as both a liaison between Marcus and corporate headquarters and an advocate for maintaining the program's focus on supporting independent shops rather than absorbing them. "Sometimes I feel like I'm running interference between you and the suits back in Detroit," Victoria told Marcus during one of her visits. "They're thrilled with the success we're seeing here, but some of them want to accelerate the expansion faster than I think is wise." Marcus looked up from the engine he was rebuilding, his hands stained with oil but his expression thoughtful. "What kind of acceleration are they talking about?" "Opening dozens of new partner locations within the next year, implementing standardized procedures across all shops, creating uniform marketing materials and customer service protocols, the kind of things that work for corporate chains but might not work for independent operations." End quote. Marcus set down his wrench and gave Victoria his full attention. "That sounds like they want to turn us into franchises without calling them franchises." "That's my concern too," Victoria admitted. "I've been arguing that the program's success depends on preserving the independence and local character of partner shops, but there's pressure to scale up quickly to meet financial projections." Marcus understood the dynamics Victoria was describing, having watched other small businesses struggle with the tensions between local needs and corporate expectations. "What do you need from me?" "Keep doing what you're doing," Victoria said. "Your success is the best argument I have for maintaining the program's original vision. As long as this shop continues to thrive while preserving its character, I can make the case for patience and careful expansion." 1. Marcus nodded, understanding that his shop had become more than just a business. It had become a symbol of what was possible when corporate resources supported rather than replaced local expertise and community connection. The partnership's second year brought national recognition that exceeded everyone's expectations. Marcus was invited to Washington, D.C. to testify before a congressional committee investigating consolidation in the automotive service industry. His testimony, emphasizing the importance of supporting small businesses while acknowledging the benefits of corporate partnerships, was widely quoted in trade publications and business journals. The attention brought opportunities that Marcus had never imagined. He was offered consulting contracts with other automotive companies, speaking engagements at industry conferences, and even a book deal to share his story with a wider audience. Each opportunity represented potential income and recognition, but Marcus approached them with the same cautious consideration he brought to all major decisions. "I never expected any of this when I agreed to your partnership," Marcus told Victoria during a phone conversation. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm getting in over my head." Victoria understood his concerns, having watched Marcus navigate the increasing demands on his time and attention. "You don't have to accept every opportunity that comes your way, Marcus. The most important thing is that you stay true to your core values and maintain the qualities that made this partnership successful in the first place." "That's what I keep telling myself," Marcus replied. "But it's getting harder to balance everything. The shop is busier than ever. I'm getting requests for interviews and speaking engagements, and I still want to be the kind of mechanic who has time to talk with customers about their cars." Victoria had been thinking about this challenge, recognizing that Marcus's success was creating pressures that could ultimately undermine the qualities that had made him successful. What if we could find a way to share your story and expertise without overwhelming your schedule? Maybe create some kind of training program that would let you influence the industry without traveling constantly. The idea that emerged from their conversation was the Meridian Independent Excellence Program, a comprehensive training initiative that would use Marcus's shop as a model for other independent operations. Rather than requiring Marcus to travel extensively, the program brought other shop owners to Pine Creek for intensive workshops that combined technical training with business development and customer service principles. The program was an immediate success, attracting participants from across the country who wanted to learn how to implement the Meridian Partnership model in their own communities. Marcus found himself serving as both instructor and inspiration, sharing not just technical knowledge, but the philosophy of customer service and community connection that had guided his career. Victoria coordinated the program from Detroit, managing logistics and ensuring that participants received comprehensive support before and after their visits to Pine Creek. She found the work deeply satisfying, creating opportunities for independent shop owners to learn from each other while building a network of businesses committed to excellence and integrity. "I think we've found the right balance," Victoria told Marcus after the program's first successful year. "You're influencing the industry and helping other shops succeed, but you're doing it in a way that allows you to stay connected to your community and your customers." Marcus agreed, feeling more comfortable with his expanded role than he had with the constant travel and speaking engagements that had initially overwhelmed his schedule. "It feels right," he said. "I'm still doing what I love, but I'm also helping other people build the kind of businesses that can serve their communities well." The success of the training program led to additional recognition and opportunities, but Marcus had learned to evaluate each one carefully, accepting only those that aligned with his values and supported his primary mission of serving his customers and community. He turned down lucrative consulting contracts that would have required extensive travel, instead focusing on initiatives that could be managed from Pine Creek while making a meaningful impact on the industry. 5 years after Victoria's flat tire had first brought her to Pine Creek, Marcus's shop had become a destination for automotive professionals from around the world. The small building that Diego Rodriguez had built in 1967 now housed state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment alongside traditional tools that had been passed down through generations. The customer lounge was filled with visitors from other countries who had come to study the Meridian Partnership model and understand how it could be adapted to their own markets. But the most significant change was harder to quantify. Marcus had become a respected voice in the automotive service industry, someone whose opinions carried weight in boardrooms and policy discussions. He used this influence carefully, always advocating for approaches that supported small businesses and independent operators while acknowledging the legitimate needs of larger corporations and consumers. Victoria had been promoted to executive vice president, largely based on the success of the partnership program that had started with Marcus's shop. She maintained her connection to Pine Creek, visiting regularly and ensuring that the original vision of the program remained intact despite pressures for rapid expansion and standardization. "Sometimes I can't believe how far we've come," Victoria told Marcus during one of her visits. 5 years ago, I was just trying to fix a flat tire and get to a meeting in Carson City." Marcus laughed, remembering that hot afternoon when he had first encountered the well-dressed woman whose rental car had limped into his parking lot. "And I was just trying to help a stranded motorist get back on the road. Funny how life works out sometimes." "Do you ever regret getting involved with all of this?" Victoria asked. "Your life was probably simpler before you became the poster child for independent automotive service." Marcus considered the question seriously, looking around his shop at the evidence of how much had changed. The business was more successful than he had ever imagined possible. He had helped dozens of other shop owners improve their operations, and he had played a role in demonstrating that corporate partnerships could support rather than undermine local businesses. But the most important things hadn't changed. He still arrived at work each morning with the same sense of purpose that had driven his father. He still took pride in solving mechanical problems and helping customers keep their vehicles running safely and reliably. He still believed that treating people fairly and doing good work were the foundations of any successful business. "No regrets," Marcus said finally. "This partnership is giving me opportunities I never could have imagined, but it hasn't changed who I am or what I believe in. I'm still the same mechanic who learned from his father that reputation is the only thing you really own in this business." Victoria smiled, recognizing the wisdom in Marcus's perspective. "I think that's why this partnership has worked so well. We found a way to grow and change without losing the essential qualities that made it valuable in the first place." As the sun set over Pine Creek, casting long shadows across the shop where Marcus had spent most of his adult life, both he and Victoria reflected on the unlikely journey that had brought them together. A flat tire and a refused tip had sparked a partnership that transformed not just one small business, but an entire approach to corporate collaboration with independent operators. The story of Rodriguez Auto Repair had become more than just a business success. It had become proof that authentic relationships, mutual respect, and shared values could bridge the gap between corporate resources and local expertise. In an industry increasingly dominated by consolidation and standardization, Marcus and Victoria had demonstrated that there was still room for approaches that honored both efficiency and authenticity. Marcus locked up the shop and walked to his truck, the same reliable vehicle he had been driving for 8 years. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, more visitors seeking to understand the partnership model, and the continuing work of serving his community's automotive needs. But tonight, as he drove home through the quiet streets of Pine Creek, Marcus felt the satisfaction of knowing that he had remained true to his father's legacy while building something new and valuable for the future. Victoria drove back toward the interstate in her rental car, already planning her next visit and thinking about the other communities where similar partnerships might take root. The partnership with Marcus had exceeded all expectations, proving that the right combination of corporate support and local expertise could create something greater than either could achieve alone. As she merged onto the highway, Victoria reflected on the lessons she had learned from a small-town mechanic who had refused her tip and changed her understanding of what business partnerships could accomplish. Sometimes, the most important discoveries came not from elaborate research programs or strategic planning sessions, but from simple human interactions characterized by honesty, integrity, and mutual respect. The lights of Pine Creek faded in her rearview mirror, but the impact of what had been accomplished there would continue to influence the automotive service industry for years to come. Marcus Rodriguez had proven that success didn't require abandoning principles or sacrificing community connections. He had shown that with the right support and partnership, even the smallest businesses could compete with the largest corporations while maintaining the personal touch that customers valued most. The story that had begun with a flat tire and a $25 repair bill had evolved into something much larger, a testament to the power of authentic relationships and the enduring value of treating people with trust, dignity, and respect. In a world often dominated by impersonal transactions and corporate indifference, Marcus and Victoria had created something rare and valuable, a partnership that honored both business success and human connection. Years later, when business students studied the Meridian Partnership Model, they would learn about market analysis, strategic planning, and operational efficiency. But the real lesson of Rodriguez Auto Repair was simpler and more profound. That success in business, as in life, often comes down to treating people well and doing the right thing, even when no one is watching and even when there's no immediate reward. Marcus Rodriguez had always known this truth, learned at his father's knee, and practiced in countless interactions with customers who trusted him with their most essential possessions. Victoria Chen had discovered it on a dusty afternoon in Pine Creek when a small-town mechanic had refused her tip and shown her what authentic customer service really looked like. Together, they had built something that honored both corporate efficiency and small-town values, proving that the two were not mutually exclusive, but could be combined to create business relationships that benefited everyone involved. The partnership that had started with a flat tire had become a model for how large corporations and small businesses could work together without either losing their essential character or compromising their core values. In the end, the story of Rodriguez Auto Repair was not just about automotive service or corporate partnerships. It was about the enduring power of integrity, the importance of community connections, and the remarkable things that can happen when people choose to trust each other and work toward common goals. It was a reminder that in an increasingly complex and impersonal world, the simple act of treating people with respect and fairness could still make all the difference.